Hi, my name is Grace Peterson, and my presentation is called Henry Kissinger, the Antithesis of Peace. The basis of this presentation, basically Henry Kissinger and Liu Duc-Tho both received a Nobel Peace Prize after their work in Vietnam and as the result of Vietnamization, so basically the extraction of soldiers from Vietnam. But I'm here to argue that Henry Kissinger is not a peaceful man, and everything he has done throughout his political career says otherwise. So a quick roadmap. First, I'm going to talk about the early life of Henry Kissinger, his relationship with President Nixon, then going into that a little bit, the Vietnam War and his expansion of that, where he was on the Indo-Pakistani War, his work in Chile, East Timor, and kind of more contemporary Henry Kissinger. Overall, leading up to the question of, is Henry Kissinger a peaceful man? So first, his early life. He was born in 1923 in Fürth, Germany, to Louis and Paula Kissinger. But anti-Semitism eventually drove them out to New York in 1938, where he then started attending night classes to become an accountant at a city college. A little while later, his brother and him were drafted into World War II, and when they came back, he enrolled into Harvard in 1950, where he would stay for 21 years, acquiring his bachelor's, master's, and PhD, and he also taught there after this. Then a chance encounter in the Harvard yard with President Kennedy's advisor basically provided him a foot in the door in D.C. He was asked a question regarding Eisenhower's administration, and he responded in a day with this long essay answer, and that essay actually earned its spot in Foreign Affairs. And because of this, he was able to meet a lot more people and then eventually get appointed to Nixon's administration as the National Security Advisor. So Kissinger and Nixon, their relationship thrived for three ways. For three reasons. Firstly, their mission. They both sought to have a unitary executive control on foreign powers. And also their personalities, while they weren't really likely to sit down and have a cup of coffee together, Kissinger understood Nixon's weaknesses were and how to exploit them. For example, Nixon really wanted to be liked. So Kissinger kind of appealed to that side of Nixon so he could get more leverage in the political process. One example of this is the National Security Council that was created right after Nixon came into power, which included a National Security Review Group, which would be chaired by Kissinger himself, which basically gave Kissinger the power to control all the policy papers that were received by the president, and it controls the NSC agenda. Additionally, there were more things passed by Nixon that kind of gave the NSC a little bit more leverage than the State Department, which caused a lot of tension within the government. So firstly, his expansion of the Vietnam War. When Nixon first came into power, Vietnam was the talk of the town. He ran on the platform of demilitarizing that area and getting the war, or ending the war, basically. But he didn't really express how he was going to exactly do that. The name Vietnamization came from Defense Secretary Mel Laird, and originally Kissinger disagreed with this. He thought the process of Vietnamization would basically incentivize the protesters against the war while also not really advancing any of the American goals. So basically like a lose-lose. Instead, they ended up collaborating on the menu plan, which was a series of operations that was encoded by breakfast, lunch, snack, dinner, and dessert. And over the course of 14 months, this plan allowed for the United States to perform 3,630 bombing raids within Cambodian territory. Meanwhile, about 500,000 troops were beginning to be extracted from Vietnam. So basically, over 4 years, we bombed Cambodia in addition to the damage that we had done already in Vietnam. So at least 100,000 civilians were killed in Cambodia alone, and approximately 1.5 million tons of bombs were dropped on Cambodia. They also expanded into Laos as well with the implementation of Operation Barrel Roll in December 1964. The U.S. flew weekly bombings that targeted North Vietnamese bases Pathet Lao. This plan was later continued by a 3-year bombing campaign consisting of around 100,000 separate air attacks on Laos. Additionally, Kissinger was involved in the Indo-Pakistani War. There were 3 main things going on in this conflict. So firstly, there was the Pakistani refugee crisis. So the elite Western Punjabis and the Bengalis of the East in Pakistan were experiencing severe inequalities. The Western Punjabis were more of the elite, while the Bengalis felt like they were being colonized. Eventually, there was an election, and the Bengalis won the election. However, the current administration, which were Punjabis, started basically attacking the Bengalis administration. This led to a civil war, which produced many refugees who sought asylum in India. Additionally, this was right around the Cold War, and India had sided with the USSR and scorned America's policy in Vietnam. So basically, the US was in a tough spot and could not support India due to their Cold War policy. Additionally, it's important to note that Nixon and Kissinger believed that their geopolitical gains outweighed any smaller conflicts. So basically, the regional dispute of Pakistan and India, including the millions of refugees and civilian casualties, came second to the geopolitical profits that may disintegrate if the US were to side with India. So basically, India did not want these refugees in their country and started pushing them away and getting violent even. And the whole international community sided with India, while the U.S. continued to side and fund Pakistan. In the end, India prevailed, and the U.S. was on the wrong side of history, essentially, all due to Nixon and Kissinger's triangular diplomacy. Then we go to South America with the election of Allende. The United States had previously backed the Democratic candidate, and Allende believed in socialism, so they did not want him in power. So Kissinger was in charge of this because there was a lot going on with the Watergate scandal. So he produced anti-Allende propaganda, and eventually a coup broke out. There was no direct correlation between Kissinger and the coup, but there are rumors that he had something to do with the encouragement of it. And after that coup in 1973, Pinochet came into power, which ended the 46-year streak of democratic rule in Chile, and also this man dismantled the Congress, outlawed political beliefs, and declared that there would be no more elections in Chile. Then in East Timor, the president of Indonesia, he wanted to annex East Timor through the UN. He tried several times, but was unsuccessful. So he wanted to take matters into his own hands. So using weaponry that was provided by the United States, authorized by Henry Kissinger, they were then able to take over the Timorese people, killing hundreds of people and driving more than 200,000 people from their homes. And now a contemporary look on Henry Kissinger. He worked as a political commentator for a while after DC. He secured a job with NBC and ABC and was a regular foreign affairs specialist. He received millions of dollars during this time. He also authored many more books after his time in DC, and offered informal political advisement to every president after Ford, even if he wasn't in their administration. Right after 9/11, President Bush created a bipartisan internal analysis commission, and he asked Kissinger to head it. However, there was a lot of rumors regarding Kissinger and Associates, his consulting agency, and the relations between this 9/11 commission. So he decided not to do that, but the fact that there were such attestments against his work on this commission kind of shows the corruption within his consulting agency. It basically allowed him to profit off of almost all political policy decisions, even ones that killed many people. So in conclusion, I ask you all, is Henry Kissinger a peaceful man? I'll leave that up for you all to decide. However, every instance where he could have saved innocent lives and helped the prosperity of the human race, he